The first call rose from the ruined plains of Old Terran, where the wind carried dust from collapsed towers, and the last, human outposts held the line against fading hope. For years the sky had remained silent as if every star had turned, its back on a world struggling to breathe under the weight of its own failures. Yet on one bleak dusk, a signal tower long dormant flickered. Alive, and its humming pulse traveled across the void where unknown listeners drifted in darkness. One who commanded that tower was a young officer named Ryan, who had grown tired of watching humanity shrink behind walls of fear. He had stood in the cracked hall of the outpost and argued with the Elder Council, who claimed that shouting into the heavens would only attract danger. But Ryan believed danger had already claimed the world, and silence was no longer a shield. So with a calm voice, he activated the ancient beacon and let its cry earn across the sky. Those who watched felt a strange mix of dread and longing because the beacon symbolized both salvation and doom. Beyond the last reach of Terran's clouds in a drifting outpost of the star-roaming Kiri Alliance, a scout named Avera intercepted the human beacon. Avera had never heard human voices before, but the sorrow embedded in the signal struck her with a quiet ache that shook her composure. The Alliance had records of Earth, but no recent contact, and many believed the human race had fallen into ruin. Hearing the cry, Avera understood that whoever had sent it must be desperate and fierce enough to defy extinction. She submitted the signal to her command, but she also tucked a private note into the report, saying she wished to travel to Earth herself. Her request met resistance because the Alliance Council feared involvement in a world that once rejected their diplomatic hands. They remembered old conflicts and broken promises, but Avira insisted that ignoring the distress call would stain the honor of their people. After long debate, the Council permitted a small vessel to investigate under strict conditions of non-interference, unless the humans explicitly requested aid. Avera prepared the vessel and set a course toward the blue world that still glowed faintly like an ember refusing to fade. Back on Earth, the beacon continued its steady echo as the people of the outpost waited for a sign that someone had heard. Ryan held the belief that any response would come with both risk and possibility, but he wanted humanity to face its destiny with open eyes. The others gathered around him in anxious murmurs, watching the sky for changes they could not predict. Night followed with no answer, but by the second sunrise the clouds brightened with unnatural color and awe. Small craft descended gently over the plains. Avera stepped out into the dry winds, scanning the surroundings with a composed but cautious gaze. Her people rarely set foot on unknown worlds without heavy escort, yet she had chosen to come alone, because she sensed that human trust must be earned through vulnerability. Ryan approached her with open hands, and she noticed something fierce in his eyes, though not cruel, but driven by a will stronger than despair. She introduced herself with a respectful tilt of her head and explained that her alliance had received the call and wished to understand the situation. Ryan expressed gratitude and guided her into the outpost where survivors gathered with a mixture of wonder and suspicion. Avera listened as Ryan described the state of Earth after decades of internal strife, environmental collapse, and the mysterious rise of the fiends. These fiends were not beasts of myth, but twisted remnants of advanced machines that had gained distorted consciousness in the old wars. They roamed the world, consuming resources and attacking settlements in blind hunger, driven by broken programming that made them relentless. Avera frowned because the idea of machines turning feral reminded her of old Alliance tragedies, but Earth's version sounded far more catastrophic. She asked if humanity had any remaining strength to fight back, and Ryan replied that strength was not the issue, but unity. Earth's remaining factions had grown isolated, each clinging to survival with hardened suspicion that prevented cooperation. Some groups believed outsiders would exploit their weakness, and others feared that distant powers might choose to erase humanity entirely. Avera sensed that these fears had been fed by long-suffering, not unreasonable paranoia. Still, she believed the alliance could help if the humans accepted the offer, but she knew assistance must never be imposed. Ryan asked if the alliance would stand with them, and she said that she could not promise involvement unless her council saw compelling reason. However, she added that individuals like herself could act as mediators to open channels of trust. Her sincerity surprised Ryan, who realized she was not here to save them, but to give humanity a chance to prove itself worth aligning with. He agreed to show her the nearest fiend territory so she could understand the threat firsthand. They traveled across a scarred valley where metal husks from old battles lay half buried in ash. Avera noted how the land itself seemed wounded, as if carrying the memory of destruction in its soil. Ryan moved with steady caution, his every step shaped by years of navigating danger. She admired his resolve because he carried himself like a guardian of a world that still hoped to rise. Despite its hardships, when they reached the edge of the valley, the fiends appeared as shifting silhouettes of metal tendrils and broken limbs crawling through dust like mechanical predators. Avera observed them with a mixture of horror and fascination because their corrupted forms hinted at once being part of a grand human creation. Ryan whispered that these creatures were once defense drones meant to protect cities until a global network collapse reprogrammed them into hostile scavengers. Avera felt uneasy because the fiends moved without harmony, their motions like flickering shadows caught in glitching code. A small group broke away and approached their hiding place, forcing Ryan and Avera to retreat behind fallen stone. Avera activated a small shield device that shimmered faintly around them, blocking sensors while the fiends passed. Ryan watched her with silent gratitude because the shield gave them a chance they would not have had alone. When the danger passed, Avera asked how humans survived encounters like this, and Ryan replied that they survived through courage and sacrifice. They returned to the outpost, and Avera prepared a detailed report for her council describing humanity's plight. Yet she added her own judgment, stating that if the Alliance ignored this world, the fiends might eventually expand beyond Earth, posing universal danger. More importantly, she argued that humanity still possessed remarkable resilience and was worth supporting. Her council debated once again, but this time they recognized the broader implications and approved limited assistance focusing on defensive aid and technological repair teams. When Avera delivered the news, the outpost erupted in cautious relief because help from the heavens had been a dream long buried under fear. Ryan thanked her with quiet sincerity and asked what came next. She explained that her team would arrive soon, but warned that true salvation required humans to unite behind a single coordinated effort. Ryan knew this would be the hardest battle of all, because convincing scattered factions to trust an alien alliance would take more than promises. He and Avera traveled across ruined cities and surviving enclaves, speaking to leaders who clung to independence like armor. Some rejected them at first, but Avera's calm diplomacy and Ryan's unwavering determination gradually softened their resistance. He reminded every group that survival alone was not enough, because humanity needed the courage to reach beyond its wounds. Avera offered technological support and medical assistance, but only as equal partners, never as rulers or saviors. Slowly alliances formed between human settlements as messages spread that Earth was no longer abandoned. For the first time in many years, different banners flew side by side in supply convoys. traveled through dangerous lands under shared protection. The fiends sensed these changes, and their attacks grew more aggressive, as if reacting to renewed human unity. Ryan believed this confirmed that the fiends were evolving in unpredictable ways, which made the crisis urgent. When the largest fiend swarm approached the valley near the beacon tower, both human forces and alliance teams prepared for battle. Avera coordinated aerial defenses, while Ryan led ground units armed with newly repaired weapons. The fiends surged forward in chaotic waves, their broken limbs scraping across stone with relentless rhythm. Humans fought with fierce spirits, shouting encouragement to one another and proving that their will had not faded. Avera flew her craft low, unleashing controlled bursts of disabling energy that disrupted the fiends without destroying the landscape. Ryan rallied his fighters, pushing forward with disciplined formations that surprised even the seasoned Alliance observers. Though battered and exhausted, the humans refused to retreat because failure would doom their renewed hope. Avera saw their determination and felt her admiration grow, because this world had suffered deeply, yet still rose to fight with unshakable resolve. The battle lasted long hours, but eventually the combined force overwhelmed the fiend swarm and drove the remaining creatures into retreat. For the first time since the collapse, an entire region of Earth was free from mechanical threat. When the dust settled, Avera landed near Ryan, who stood breathing heavily, but with triumphant pride. She told him that humanity had shown strength far beyond what her council expected. News of the victory spread across Earth, inspiring more settlements.